Yo, what's up, everybody? Satan Survives here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about hardcore and empowered monoliths. So this is my bleed bug build. Definitely check out the description for a playlist to all the videos in this series. I'm level 91, working on getting to level 100. I'm at 2.7k health roughly. Here are my defensive stats. Maxed out on endurance, maxed out on endurance threshold, maxed out on crit avoidance. Those are all extremely important. I did switch to a shield because transitioning into empowered monoliths, I felt like I was taking a little bit too much hit damage. So that's all up to you. Two-handed is still very, very viable, and in fact, better damage wise, like you're going to do more damage with a two-handed weapon. But if you feel like you are taking a little bit too much damage, definitely switch to a shield just to be safe. If you're playing softcore, it's not so much of a big deal, but shields, doesn't matter what character you're playing in hardcore. If you're taking too much damage, switch to a shield. That's the best advice I can advise as far as something that you can do with your defenses to really make sure that you're not dying. But anyway, if you want more information about this particular build and the defensive layers, I have a bunch of videos on it. But this video is about how to survive in empowered monoliths. So besides educating yourself on the various things you need, like percent health, hybrid health, crit avoidance, all the sort of really specific mods at the end game, the other thing you need to be aware of is how to choose your mods as you start in an empowered monolith. So this is the starting point of a level 100 empowered monolith. I just beat it, so it's nice and fresh. And when I'm choosing my picks here, I choose things that are safe. And what I mean by that is I choose defensive modifiers that will give higher defenses to the enemies, and I will very rarely choose increased damage modifiers. Especially when you get down deeper into the monolith, you'll find things like enemies deal 68% increased elemental damage, or increased necrotic, or increased physical. Specific damage modifiers that have a specific call out of the type of damage are very dangerous, and I don't ever recommend you taking them, especially if you have other modifiers going on. And this is kind of just the biggest rule of thumb is in hardcore, when you're doing empowered monoliths, you never really want to choose damage modifiers. You always want to choose things that are going to give defensive stats to the enemies. Like, enemies have 44% endurance. That's a really safe one to pick, because then the damage coming to you stays the same. You won't run into any surprises. Something like 98% chance to shred armor on hit. This is incredibly dangerous. You can do it. It's a little bit less dangerous than, like 68% increased elemental damage, but it's still one that is not recommended by me to take for hardcore players. But if you absolutely need it, like let's say you really just absolutely want to go to this node behind it, shred armor on hit is acceptable. You just need to be aware and be careful that you're not letting your armor shred stacks get too high. And then something like this, enemies have 25 or 29% critical strike avoidance and increased health. This is great for us because we don't really care about crit avoidance, and increased health is fantastic, so we'll take that all day. High health enemies deal 45% increased damage. This one's okay as well because high health enemies are typically like rares or bosses, and you are already sort of consciously aware you need to be careful with those mobs anyway. So this mod is okay as well. It's not so bad, but do be careful not to stack too many of them up together. So basically the rules of thumb is don't get anything that's going to shred your armor. Don't get anything that's going to apply mark on death on hit, because mark on death is going to lower your resistances. So unless you're 25% above your resistance caps, don't get mark on death. Don't get any sort of specific damage increase. Enemies deal 35% increased damage. This is okay. Like, let's say you really wanted to go to the mob, the map behind it, you could do something like that, but just be careful not to stack up too many. You're already working with a static 50% more damage, so now enemies will be doing 85% more damage, and if you get another one of those, it's going to get out of hand too quickly. So that's the other thing too. So not only not picking bad modifiers, only picking defensive modifiers for monsters as much as possible, but also don't ever stack too many modifiers that are the same on top of each other. And so what I mean by that is, if I do this node right here, enemies have 39% endurance, and then I come down here and I choose enemies have 44% endurance, all of a sudden enemies have like 80% endurance, and that's crazy. So be careful about stacking same modifiers like increased damage. The only modifier that's okay to stack at this stage of the game is increased crit chance for monsters. And one of those looks like this. Enemies deal 17% increased damage and have a 145% increased critical strike chance. Since we are crit capped, this is essentially a free mod for us that's safe to take. So I look for increased critical strike chance because the increased damage that goes along with it isn't very high, and you can stack those together 2 or sometimes even 3 times together. So those are okay because we are crit capped. So yeah, overall, just be really careful about which ones you're choosing. This one here, enemies have 25% in critical strike avoidance and health. This is a great one, so we're going to pick that. Enemies deal increased damage. This is okay. 84% chance to shred armor on hit. Just be careful, be aware of what that's doing to your character as you map. And yeah, just read these and then be conscious of what ones you already have. And then as far as, this last boss fight I did, I wiped all my modifiers. The way you do that is, let's say you fill your bar up and you're getting to this 3rd tier, you're about ready to fight the boss. You can start looking for things that are either defensive, that are going to, so for example, I started here and I noticed, I'm approaching the point where I want to fight the boss, and so then I chose a relatively easy modifier, increase movement speed and damage. Again, don't stack this one up too high though. And then after that, I did this echo beacon. The echo beacons are very good for wiping off any modifiers you don't want. So I think at the time of starting this, I had 3 maps left of modifiers, and so I did this beacon that left 2 left, and then these additional quest echoes, these are optional in Empowered, but if I want to wipe my modifiers, I'll do them. So I'll make sure that all my modifiers down here say 2, like 2 maps remaining, and then I'll do the 2 quest echo maps, so that way when I'm ready to do the map boss, the quest boss, or the echo boss, whatever you want to call it, there's no modifiers there. So yeah, it's going to take some practice, but overall just start with not choosing any damage modifiers, especially for hardcore characters, and then not stacking the same modifiers on top of each other. And then when you do go fight the boss, make sure that if there are modifiers there, you understand them. You can do specific things once you understand how to, traverse the monolith map to wipe those modifiers away. And then when you go into the boss fight, I personally like to have no modifiers on there. But if you want to increase the rarity or whatever, just make sure they're the modifiers that you can handle. So anyway, that's kind of the gist of the monolith system. And I'm excited because I just got my % chance to shred physical from this bad boy. So I'm about ready to go pop off with some damage. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Hopefully you guys are having a great time in Empowered Monoliths with the Bleed Bug build. If you are taking a little bit too much damage, I do recommend switching over to a shield like I noted. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks a lot for watching, and good luck in the Terra, travelers.